Very good morning, students. This is Suresh, your commerce teacher from Government Degree College, Kukatpalli. Today, we will learn about void agreements. I told you in the very beginning chapters that agreements can be divided into legal agreements, void or social agreements, and illegal agreements. What is a void agreement? An agreement which is invalid from the beginning is called a void agreement. Void means invalid. If it is invalid from the very beginning stage, such agreement is called a void agreement. Before we see what are the void agreements and how it is different from void contract, I wish to share a maxim with you that all void agreements are not illegal, but all illegal agreements are void. Why? It is obvious that every illegal agreement is invalid, but every invalid agreement need not be illegal. Sometimes an agreement may lose its validity owing to its legal incompetencies, such as forming an agreement with minor or forming an agreement without consideration or without any benefit. It need not be illegal. It need not be detrimental to the benefit of anyone, but simply it is invalid. But all illegal agreements are invalid or void. That is the reason why we establish a maxim that all unlawful agreements are void, but all void agreements are not unlawful. With this, now let us see what is the major difference between a void agreement and a void contract. Clear? Now, let us proceed towards the differences between void agreement and void contract. So friends, void agreement is defined in section 2 subsection G and void contract is defined in section 2 subsection J. Let us see the definitions given in these respective sections first. According to section 2 subsection G, an agreement which is not enforceable by law is a void agreement, right? Whereas void contract is defined in section 2 subsection J. Accordingly, a contract which ceases to be enforceable by law becomes void. Clear? So void contract is very much valid at the time of formation, but due to some unforeseen future circumstances, it may lose validity. It is called a void contract. That is the reason why definition is well settled in it, that says that a contract which ceases to be enforceable, that means which stops to be enforceable, becomes void. Now you got the difference? Void agreement is invalid from the very beginning, that is right from the stage of formation. Void agreement is invalid, but void contract is very much valid at the time of formation but loses validity at a future date due to some unforeseen circumstances. That is the reason why we differentiate that void agreements are invalid from beginning, valid, and void contracts are valid at the beginning. Similarly, void agreements are not enforceable by law, but void contracts are enforceable at the time of formation but loses the validity. These are the three major differences you need to understand with respect to void agreement and void contract. Let us take examples to illustrate the differences between void agreement and void contract. Let us suppose if I make an agreement with a minor, it is void agreement or void contract? It is void agreement because minors are incompetent to form contracts, isn't it? Let us suppose I have made an agreement to purchase a house from a builder. Building was very much in existence. I paid token advance and I took some 2 weeks of time to arrange the remaining amount and finally get the property registered in my name. So during this 2 weeks time, there was some earthquake and building got collapsed. Now, can I go and force the builder? No. You made an agreement with me to sell the property, to sell the building. You have to give me the same premises at any cost. You have to give me the same structure at any cost. Can I say like that? No. Why? Earthquake is unforeseen future event. So at the time of paying token advance, the contract was very much valid because building or structure was in existence. But the time when it has to be executed, it became invalid because the subject matter is destroyed owing to a future event which is not predicted, which is not expected. So this is a case of void contract. You cannot bind the other party to discharge the liability. Void contract means once it ceases to be enforceable, the contractual relationship also ceases to exist. Clear? So now our law has given, here law means Indian contract has given a list of activities or list of agreements which are specifically declared to be void. So these agreements are very much a resemblance of valid contracts because there will be consideration. Sometimes parties might be competent to form contract even though they are void. So let us examine the list of agreements which are specifically declared to be void under the provisions of Indian Contract Act 1872. Well, according to section 11, agreements with incompetent persons are invalid from the beginning. Who are invalid persons? You know it very well. Minors by age, persons with unsound mind, foreign ambassadors, convicts, insolvents, and alien enemies. So if any agreements are formed with such persons, they are void ab initio, right? Agreements with bilateral mistake, section 20. I told you in the previous chapter that if mistake is unilateral, only one person is deemed to have committed mistake. The other person becomes a victim. So the contract becomes voidable. But when both promisor and promisee are bilaterally committing the mistake, it is void from the beginning, invalid from the beginning, right? Agreements with unlawful consideration, right? So without consideration also agreements are void, and if you have consideration but it is not lawful, it is also invalid. Unlawful consideration, that means agreements to take benefit which is prohibited by law or forbidden by law. Such agreements are not only void but also unlawful. Now observe here carefully that agreements cited in section 11 and section 20 are only void, but agreement cited in section 23 is void as well as unlawful. That is the reason why I told you that all unlawful agreements are void, but all void agreements are not unlawful. Agreements with unlawful objects. Object is the purpose. Both consideration and object must be lawful. What is the difference between consideration and object? Consideration is the benefit we derive from contract, and object is the purpose why such contract is designed, right? Let us take a small example. I will let out my house to you on a monthly rental basis, provided you run a prohibited gambling house in it. So taking rent is my consideration, my benefit, And the purpose why this house is being let out is to run a prohibited gambling house. That's the object. So if object is unlawful, then also agreement is void as well as unlawful, right? Both consideration as well as object of the agreement must be lawful. Otherwise, it is void and unlawful. Agreements without consideration are void. Section 25, right? Agreements without any benefit are often the consequences of emotional decisions in which the due diligence of the parties to contract will be lacking. Therefore, courts will set aside such contracts. But there are few exemptions to this rule. We discussed in previous chapters that agreements made with natural love and affection and duly registered as will, promise made to compensate the services rendered in past, promise made to repay the time bar debts, promise to recover the gifts and prizes, agreement of agency or contract of agency, and similarly, promise for charitable subscriptions are enforceable even without consideration. So, barring these 6 provisions, all other agreements without proper consideration are invalid from the beginning, that is, void ab initio. Agreements in restraint of marital liberty are void. Yes, marital liberty, that is, right to marry or liberty to marry someone, is very privatified. It cannot be tagged with any agreement or contract. I will give a silly example, don't mind, to make the point very clear, not otherwise else. Let us suppose one film director is making a movie. The shooting may take place for 3 years or 4 years. So he imposes a condition with the heroine, or he drafts an agreement with the heroine that she should not get married during the tenure of shooting. The director's worry is that the heroine may get conceived and she may not act, or she cannot act in the prescribed role. So agreement is made between the director and heroine such that she will not marry anyone until the shooting is completed. Assume like this lady got married someone. So can the director go and restrict their marital liberty? Or can the director go and stop from exercising her conjugal right in the post-marital scenario? No, he cannot. So whatever agreement he signed with that heroine stands invalid from the very beginning. So if any one of you wish to go into cinema industry, be careful with the point that agreements in restraint of marital liberty are void. So please excuse me and don't mind. It is only to make the subject easy and nothing else. Agreements in restraint of trade liberty are void. So you can do any activity or any trade activity without any restriction, provided you meet all legal formalities. If anyone signs an agreement with you to restrict your trade liberty, it is invalid from the beginning, except in the case where goodwill is accepted as valid consideration and promise is made that similar trade is not or will not be conducted or will not be carried so long the goodwill holds validity. Let us take an example. An outgoing partner from a firm may say, give me 3 years super profit of goodwill. I will not come into competition in similar business for 3 years for this firm. So he restricts himself from trading. So that type of agreement restricts the trading liberty of individual. So except in the case of goodwill, the other cases, agreements in restricting trade liberty are invalid from the beginning. Clear? Now let us see further. Agreements in restraint of legal proceedings are invalid from the beginning. They are void. Section 28. I'll give you a famous case law, Prasad Textiles versus MG Brothers. What happened in this case is, one textile manufacturer, Prasad Textiles, booked a consignment of ready-made garments, cleanly packed, and the consignee took an instruction in the agreement that the package should not be opened or should not be disturbed until the consignment reaches the destination. MG Brothers is a very famous truck operating company in the Andhra Pradesh state. So, Prasad Textiles booked a consignment to transport its ready-made garments in a cleanly packed condition from one destination to another. Right? The condition was that the package should not be opened anywhere. The boxes should not be opened anywhere. Well, when the voyage was on, when the transportation was under the process, there was an interstate check post where government authorities have got every right to inspect the goods, to check the smuggling or some other abnormalities. They have every liberty to check or inspect the goods at interstate check post. So there was an interstate check post, and government authorities have ordered the consignee to open the boxes and show the cargo in it. They argued with the government authorities that they have an agreement with the consignor not to open the boxes and not to disturb the package. So is it a valid agreement? No, because inspecting goods at interstate checkpost or any custom frontier is a legal proceeding, is a legal right. It cannot be stopped with any agreement. So later on, Prasad Textiles filed a suit against MG Brothers to recover compensation, but it was held in the court that no compensation need to be paid because it was a legal proceeding to open the cargo and show it to customs authorities or other state authorities whenever demanded. Right? Let us take another example. Actually, agreement in restraint of legal proceedings is void, no doubt, but there is one exemption to this point. Have you heard about arbitration and conciliation proceedings? Conciliation is the process of settling civil disputes outside the court. We have a law, Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. Accordingly, we can have a conciliator and arbitrator outside the court and settle the disputes. So in such circumstances, the parties to arbitration and conciliation may be forced to write an agreement, may be forced to sign an agreement that they will not go to court during the conciliation process. So during the settlement process, they should not go to court. So going to court is your legal right. Going to court is a legal proceeding which can be stopped through valid grounds only in the case of arbitration and conciliation. I repeat, conciliation is the process of settling civil disputes outside the court with the help of some legal experts. Clear? So except in this case, any agreement in restraint of legal proceeding is invalid. Right? Next, agreements with vague terms is invalid. Right? Vague terms means agreement is not properly defined. There is uncertainty with respect to the terms and conditions or points mentioned in the agreement. Let me give a small case to illustrate this. Suppose I wanted to take a property or a house on lease basis for 3 years. I went and saw the house and spoke to the house owner. This house is replicating a old model. If it is flamboyantly renovated, I will take it on lease for 3 years. That was the agreement I made with the house owner. So, at the strength of my promise, the house owner incurred some expenditure and renovated the house. So, after the renovation, I went there and I saw the house. And I told him, no, it is not flamboyantly renovated. It is also an outdated model. I will not take this house on lease basis. So the house owner went to court against me. He promised me through an agreement that he will take my house on lease basis if it is flamboyantly decorated or renovated. Will he win the case against me? No, he cannot. Why? Agreement, it is vague. It is uncertain. What I feel is flamboyant may look awkward to the house owner. What he feels is flamboyant may look a dated technology or dated model to me. Rather, I should have clearly explained to him, to which the house owner should have clearly agreed. There should be marble flooring, there must be POP plastering, there must be false ceiling, color specifications, everything must be clearly defined. Only then it is valid agreement. So in this example, it's uncertain. What is flamboyancy? What is attractiveness is not properly defined. So agreements with vague terms are invalid, void ab initio, right? Wagering agreements are invalid. Section 30. What is this wagering agreement? It's a betting agreement. If I win, I will give you 10,000. If you win, you give me 10,000 rupees. This type of agreements or betting agreements are invalid, right? Contingent agreements with impossible future events are invalid, right? What is a contingent contract? It is a contract to do something or not to do something depending on happening or non-happening of a future event. If that future event or happening of such future event is impossible, you knew it in the very beginning, then it is also invalid agreement. Confused? Let us suppose I have an agreement with a conjurer or with a jadugar in our vernacular language. So he says, I will create treasure of 10 crore rupees on a certain date. If I fail to create treasure on certain date, then I am defeated. So if I create treasure, you have to give me commission. Otherwise, you have to give me my charges. That is the agreement. So is it possible for anyone to create treasure from nothing in the myth? That's only a magic, isn't it? It's a future event, impossible. We knew it in the very beginning itself. So such agreements are invalid, right? So these are the list of void agreements. These are the agreements specifically declared to be void. I wish to give one caution at this juncture, my dear friends. If you see few textbooks, section 56 is also brought into the ambit of void agreements. But according to me or my analysis, section 56 is not a void agreement. It is a void contract. What that section 56 is, agreements subjected to supervening impossibility are invalid. What is supervening impossibility? An act which is possible to perform in the beginning but becomes impossible at a future date. What is it? At the time of formation, it is possible, but on a future date, it becomes impossible. Don't you think it is void contract? Yes. What is void agreement after all? An agreement which is invalid from the beginning. Therefore, section 56 is intentionally deleted in my discussion, right? So with this, discussion on void agreements is also complete. Now let us take assignment questions. So please do attempt these assignment questions. What is a void agreement? Explain various agreements specifically declared to be void under Indian Contract Act 1872. Please give the definition and also explain the entire list of void agreements we discussed in this chapter to bring this question to fruition. Second, explain the difference between a void agreement and a void contract. Question number 3. All illegal agreements are void, but all void agreements are not illegal. Explain. I'm giving a statement, you have to explain it. All illegal agreements are void, but all void agreements are not illegal. You have to corroborate your answer with suitable examples. That's all for now. If you have any doubts, please revert back at 98495-60102 or nsureshnaidu@gmail.com. See you in the next class with the next topic, legality of the object. Have a nice day. Be safe. Bye.